Rastafarian philosophy is death to black and white oppressors.
Get funky.
Big ups to Reza Clifton.
This is the Reza Wreckage 10 in 10 segment, and the challenge is this. I've got 10 minutes to hit y'all off with 10 items, 10 updates, 10 questions. The unit is 10, the amount of time is 10, and I'm Reza Wreckage. So we're going to launch into it. Kate, I'm so excited to have you here for the first edition of the Reza Wreckage 10 in 10. We're going to spend some time on you, and then I've got a few other updates. We'll see what we have time to get through.
Oh, have you not heard? It was my understanding that everyone had heard.
Heard what? Brian, don't!
Oh, well, a bird.
So, Kate Rushin. Am I saying that right?
Yes. Rush in,
and I'm rushing in to talk to you.
Glad to be here. Thanks.
You are an
invitation.
artist in residence right now at AS220. Can you talk about what that means?
Yes, I am. As folks in the area know, AS220 is a premier arts organization, community arts organization in the Down City Arts District of Providence, and this actually kind of fell out the sky for me. This opportunity. There are residences. There are about 50 artists in residence in the various buildings at AS220, and there is one room down on Empire Street, down at 95 Empire Street, that is reserved for the artists in residence to stay anywhere from 2 weeks to a month, and it's all about collaboration, and it's all about the artists mixing it up, and I'm grateful to be here.
That's fantastic. You were a part of an event last night that was called I'm an Artist, Women of Color Speak. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yes, every artist in residence at AS220 is asked to take part in some kind of public presentation, and Shay Rivera, who's my contact person, who's on the staff there at AS220, she's the program director, put this panel together, and it was really great meeting the other women artists of color in your Providence community.
One of the things I noticed in the announcement sent by Shay was that she noted that you are a writer, and specifically that one of the pieces that you were here to share was the bridge poem, which was a piece of work of yours featured in an anthology. Tell us a little bit about the bridge poem, and tell us a little bit about the anthology.
Well, the bridge poem is basically dealing with multiple identities and the ways so many of us have to translate we have to translate ourselves, we translate for other people, and sometimes it gets wearying. Sometimes we get tired. Sometimes it's a drag. It may be necessary to translate, but it does wear on the nerves from time to time, and basically that's what the poem is dealing with.
Do you have a little bit here that you might be able to share?
Sure.
Again, I'm talking right now with Kate Rushin, who is the artist in residence at AS220 here in Providence, Rhode Island. And just last night, September 18th, you were part of an event called I'm an Artist, Women of Color Speak. And she's here to speak on Sonic Watermelons and on the 10 in 10, Reza Wreckage 10 in 10.
So here's the bridge poem. I've had enough. I'm sick of seeing and touching both sides of things. Sick of being the bridge for everybody. Nobody can talk to anybody without me, right? I explain my mother to my father to my little sister to my brother to the white feminists to the black church folks, the black church folks to the ex-hippies to the black separatists to the artists, and the artists to the parents of my friends. Then, after all of that, I've got to explain myself to everybody. I do more translating than the UN. Forget it. I'm sick of filling in your gaps, sick of being your insurance against the isolation of your self-imposed limitations, sick of being the crazy at your holiday dinners, the odd one at your Sunday brunches. I am sick of being the sole black friend to 34 individual white folks. Find some other connection to the rest of the world, something else to make you legitimate, some other way to be political and hip. I will not be the bridge to your womanhood, your manhood, your humanness. I'm sick of reminding you not to close off too tight for too long. Sick of mediating with your worst self on behalf of your better selves. Sick of having to remind you to breathe before you suffocate your own fool self. Forget it. Stretch or drown. Evolve or die. You see, it's like this. The bridge I must be is the bridge to my own power. I must translate my own fears, mediate my own weaknesses. I must be the bridge to my own true self. It's only then that I can be useful.
Snap, 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 snaps. Kate Rushin reading from The Bridge.
Being a black woman is very interesting in music because people assume that you're going to sing R&B, or if you're in Paris, a lot of the articles say, yeah, it's a soul music, or in French say, la soul. C'est vraiment la soul. And I say, well, it's not really soul music, and it's not really new soul, and you can't really assume that it is because I'm black. Like, that's not what it is.
This poem I see was coming from a book that looks like it was written by you, but it's also featured in an anthology. Am I getting this right?
Yeah, the anthology was published in the 80s by Cherie Moraga and Gloria Anzaldúa. It is called This Bridge Caught My Back, Writings by Radical Women of Color, and it includes prose poetry, narratives, and analysis by African Americans, Asian Americans, Latina, and Native American women.
And you said it was written in what year?
I believe it was published in 1980-81. Actually, there is a new edition coming out that Cherie Moraga is editing and has been working on, and there's also an edition in Spanish.
That's tight. I'm fascinated, and this idea that this book came out in the 1980s, and yet we're having to say the same thing. We're having to make those same pleas. We're having to set those same limits to say, okay, I need to live. I can't just be your teacher all of the time. It fascinates me. It's also one of the things that Shayla said in describing last night's event, that part of this book and part of your work is about female voices of color responding to white feminism. I know I've been talking about that a little bit in my own work, but what is it exactly that you're responding to, or why is it that there needs to be a dialogue from your vantage point and your viewpoint between women of color and white feminists?
Yes, you're right. It is in part of the book. This Bridge Caught My Back was a response to feminism and dealt with some frustrations, but I think maybe more importantly, it's also about all of us coming together and women of color figuring out what that term even means to us. We're coming from different countries, different cultures, different experiences. It's about coming together, and certainly that was evidenced last night at AS220 because everybody was in the house last night.
Where can folks reach you, Kate, and how can folks reach and access your work, your writing, and different projects that you're part of, especially those who are not here in Providence and who are not part of the AS220 network?
Well, I am on Facebook, Kate Rushin, that's Rushin.
Rastafarian philosophy is death to black and white oppressors.
We've been listening to Kate Rushin here on the Reza Wreckage 10 and 10. Got a couple other points I want to get into here. Wanted to remind folks that the dubber is still out there in South Carolina doing his thing. He's got a new album coming out soon called Cleaning Up the Dirty South. I'm going to need y'all to look at that. Speaking of the dubber, I was down in South Carolina and North Carolina chilling with the dubber. We were all over the place doing our thing, supporting his performances, checking out the towns of Columbia and Aiken, South Carolina, as well as Asheville, North Carolina. We were hanging out with my cousin Kate Clifton and launching her book, The Girl from Nowhere. And we were also launching my new zine called 3 a.m. is the New Black. Find it, hashtag 3am Black, if you want to follow our adventures. We've also launched the Wells Walker Society. That's Jared Ball from imixwhatilike.org and myself. We're going to ask you to check us out. Find us on Twitter at Wells Walker So. And we've got so much more coming up. And speaking of following Twitter and following me, Reza Wreckage, and following The Girl from Nowhere, and following 3am Black, and following BSRLive.com and Sonic Watermelons, you can check me at Twitter and Facebook at Reza Cliff. Also check out ambitiousblackfeminist.org and venussings.com. This has been the first edition of the Reza Wreckage 10 and 10. We're airing live right here on Sonic Watermelons. You'll also hear us every week on the super funky Soul Power Hour down in Washington, D.C. Big ups to Jared Ball.
This isn't serious.